Greetings, Andy here again, and this is episode 5 of my occasional series I'm doing that I'm calling 3 Live Albums. Now, if you've watched these previously, you'll know what it's about, but if not, basically, I like a live album, I've got a few, and I'm just pulling out 3. Sometimes there's a connection, sometimes not. Where there's a bit of a connection, I'll try and highlight it. I've got a whole mix of stuff: vinyl, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and I try and make sure that on every episode there's at least one vinyl. Today I've got 2, and then finishing off with an absolutely brilliant, one of my favourite live albums of all time, which is in CD and DVD format. Anyway, let's kick off, and I'm going back to, quite a personal thing for me, back to my, I say youth, but late teens, early 20s, growing up in Birmingham, and a stalwart of the Birmingham music scene at that time was the Steve Gibbons band, and pub rock was a thing then, so I saw these several times, on that pub circuit in Birmingham, along with lots of others. When this came out in '77, I turned 20 then, so that was what I was watching going round in that sort of time. Steve Gibbons did produce quite a few albums. I mean, despite being what was essentially a pub rock band, they had some good, musicians in there. So Trevor Burton from who was in The Move played bass with them. 2 guitarists, some good twin guitars going on. Essentially rock and roll. I mean, Steve Gibbons really was his thing was US rock and roll, and he absolutely adored Elvis. He's not doing any, this isn't an Elvis impression. It's not, it's not old school rock and roll either, for that matter. But he does cover a few Chuck Berry tracks, one of which, in my humble opinion, Tulane. The cover is probably better than the original in some ways. Anyway, they got picked up by the Who's management before this, in the sort of 74, 75, and ended up touring with a lot of big bands, as the support act. So they sort of blossomed out of the Birmingham scene then, toured with the Who, and they also toured with Bebop Deluxe. And a couple of episodes ago I covered Live in the Air Age, the Bebop Deluxe 1977 live album, which I saw. I didn't see the concert they recorded, but I saw them on that tour, and Steve Gibbons was supporting them. So there's 2 of my favourite bands at the time on at the same time, which was absolutely brilliant. So this, it's a single album. It's got some great tracks on there, lots of their own, plus some covers. So it's got Tulane on there, which is a fabulous cover. Speed Kills Rolling, One of the Boys, a couple of covers and that. So it's a really nice live album of its time, and it was released on Polydor. It's just a single, as I say. So my second one, there is a sort of link, and we're in the pub rock link. As I mentioned, Birmingham had a real pub rock scene going on at that time in the mid-70s, but so did London, and one of the stalwarts for them, and also one of the most influential bands, or bands that influenced the punk scene coming on later, was Dr. Feelgood. And this is their live album from '75, which is called Stupidity. And it was recorded side 1, it's called the Sheffield side, because it was recorded in Sheffield, and side 2 is called the Southend side, because it was recorded in Southend, which really would have been a sort of hometown gig for them, because they come from a place called Canby Island in Essex, which is sort of like just along the Thames estuary coast from Southend. I mean, they're pretty well known, but if you don't know them, they were real good fast rock and roll. It was sort of proto-punk in a way, but it's great. The lead singer was a guy called Lee Brillo, and he played some great harmonica. He sadly died very young. He had cancer very early. The guitarist, can't quite see him there jumping around, has an amazing style, and his name is Wilko Johnson. Actually, his actual name is John Wilkinson, but his stage name was Wilko Johnson. Brilliant. He sadly died a couple of years ago, also of cancer, which I think he'd been battling a long time. If you don't know him and you did see Game of Thrones, he was the bald, mute executioner in the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones, and a fabulous guitarist. So I never saw the Feelgoods, but I don't know, 20 years or so ago, I saw Wilko playing in a biker club in Birmingham. He was brilliant. This is a fairly recent reissue I came across, I think it was about 2016. It's on gold, strangely. So, to the next one, and we're jumping forward to 2010 or to 2009. The concert was, and one of my favourite bands, one of my favourite live albums, and that is Mogwai and Special Moves. And this is, as I say, it was released in 2010, but the concert recording was in. Because they're live in Brooklyn, NY, 2009, and it was filmed. The film is actually called Burning, was at the time, and this features a CD made from the live tracks, of which there are 11 on there, and the DVD of the film Burning, which has 8 tracks on there, so slightly shorter, but there's bits in between and so on. And this position-wise, this was sort of like, you might say, roughly halfway, between now and when they kicked off in the mid-late 90s. But discography, it's about a little bit over halfway. So I think they've produced 10 studio LPs, and this was after the sort of 6th of those. So they produced 4 since. But to be honest, this includes their best tracks. So in my humble opinion, the earlier 6 albums are slightly better than the latter 4. But it's as long as it's broad. But there's some absolute fabulous ones in it. It's a real best of live, and Mogwai are a brilliant live band. You've got the fabulous I'm Jim Morrison, I'm Dead. Great titles. Fiend of the Night, Hunted by a Freak, Mogwai, Fear Satan. Some of these are on both CD and DVD, which is fabulous. Cody, You Don't Know Jesus, I Know You Are But What Am I Love You, I'm Going to Blow Up Your Skull, 2 Rights Make One Wrong, Like Herod, Glasgow Megasnake. Now, if you know anything about Mogwai, all of those will be familiar, because that is a proper greatest hits or greatest live tracks. So absolutely brilliant. Go. That's my 3 live albums for this time. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.